Hello, I'm Wire93. Today we are going through posts from r/Am I the A-hole, where a woman won't sit in economy when traveling to her father-in-law's funeral, and requests to be in first class. Comment who you think is the a-hole in these stories. If you enjoy my content, don't forget to like and subscribe. Now let's get into the stories. Our first story comes from u/South_Marine3167. Am I the a-hole for canceling a check of $12,000 that I wrote for my infertile friend for her next IVF cycle over a joke? I, F35, am infertile. My ex-husband and I tried everything to have kids, but it just never happened. He divorced me, went and married someone younger who was able to give him a kid, and from what I gather, they're expecting a second child together. It hurts like hell seeing someone else have what I couldn't. I get frustrated with myself sometimes, and with family blaming me for basically everything. I turn to my friends for support, especially Alessia. She's in the same infertility boat as me, but she and her husband are currently trying IVF, hoping it'd work. Alessia asked me for help to pay for her upcoming IVF cycle. I agreed to write her a check of $12,000. I really wanted to help her, and the money came with no strings attached. I wrote the check and gave it to her last week. She was very appreciative of it. The very next day, I got a sudden message from a mutual friend, Carol, with a screenshot of the conversation she had with Alessia. Turns out she and Alessia were talking about the next IVF cycle, and Alessia said she hoped the cycle would work because she didn't want to end up divorced and having her husband go marry someone younger and have a baby with them and another one on the way, while she's alone and without a family at 35. She's 32. I was stunned and hurt. I knew she meant me here. But I did not confront her. I simply contacted my bank and canceled the check. In the evening, Alessia called to ask why I canceled the check, and I told her. She went batshit, saying she didn't mean it that way and that she thought that this was somewhat an inside joke between desperate infertile women. She came over with her husband the next day begging I write another check, but I refused. An argument ensued, and her husband thought I wasn't being supportive of her like when she supported me throughout my struggles. She left crying and we haven't talked since then. Her husband keeps reminding me, while repeatedly calling Carol a toxic snake, of the date of the next cycle, saying they can have it after I took the money that was supposed to pay for it back. Some friends think I'm being oversensitive. Carol's on my side telling me to tell them to go to hell, but I feel so bad about it. What I've done might just damage our 15 years of friendship. Maybe I shouldn't have canceled it, but I just felt so offended by what she said about me and how she basically mocked my unfortunate circumstances. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? Update. Hello again. And wow, thank you so much for all this support and compassion that you've shown me. I could feel it through my screen, lol. I have decided I'm going to put some distance between me and Alessia. Things have been rough lately, and I think that distance is what I need right now, especially for my mental health. After reading some comments here, I now feel less heavy and more relieved. Doesn't change the fact that I still feel completely and utterly shocked by Alessia's behavior. It's a shame having to come to the realization that even those who are supportive of you the most could cause as much harm. Oh, and by the way, I sent Carol a link for this thread to see what her thoughts were, and she just laughed. She was kind of angry I used her real name, but relieved that I used a throwaway lol. Our next post comes from Reddit user u/chemical_eagle1007. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife she was so close to getting her dream job? I'm a 33-year-old man and my wife is 27. Since the start of our relationship, my wife has been very particular about how things get done, and tends to believe that she knows the one true correct way for anything related to anything. She has admitted that she can be a control freak. While this bothers me, it has never been a true deal breaker in our relationship. Very often, when I do just about anything, whether it be a household chore, assembling a piece of furniture, taking a picture, or writing a presentation for work, in a field where I have a master's degree and she has no formal education, she'll do this thing where she'll condescendingly say, "You were so close to getting it right," really drawing out the "so close" part. I've told her dozens of times that I'd prefer for her to stop because it sounds so condescending, but she insists that she's complimenting me. I do the dishes and place them out to dry in an orientation she doesn't approve of. "You were so close. Next time, put them that way." I take a picture of her. "You were so close. Next time, angle the camera this way." I complete a project at work and show her the results. "You were so close. Next time, write it this way." For the last 2 months, my wife has been undergoing an intensive hiring process for a job in our city. She works in a highly niche field and seldom finds job openings, and therefore she was ecstatic to have the opportunity for a relatively well-paying job doing what she wants to do. She got to the very final stage where the company was considering 2 people, coincidentally the other of whom was her college roommate. Well, on Friday she got the call, telling her thanks for her application but blah blah blah, record on file, all that jazz. My wife came to me crying. I immediately comforted her and, "You were so close," blurted out. Her head whipped up and she asked what I meant by that. I said she was so close to getting the job, but was just a bit off. She immediately walked out to stay at her friend's house, where she is currently sulking. She finally sent me a text this afternoon calling me a huge jerk. So, who is the a-hole? Comment your thoughts. This one comes from Reddit user u/sedandixhosted133. Am I the a-hole for missing my father-in-law's funeral after my mother-in-law booked my husband first class but me economy? Me female 31 and my mother-in-law don't have a close relationship. She's civil towards me but can be a bit passive-aggressive at times and we tend to disagree oftentimes. We live in a different state. Father-in-law passed away suddenly, and mother-in-law told me and my husband to come attend the funeral. She booked our tickets to fly to her state. But the issue started when my husband told me that we couldn't sit together in the plane because his mom had booked him a first-class ticket while I got economy. I was flabbergasted by this. I tried asking him why, but he urged me to suck it up, and we'll talk about it later. In that particular moment, I felt so much humiliation and contempt. I felt like she was treating me as less than even in her hard times. I decided to not go and just go back home. My husband was shocked by my decision to go home, and tried to convince me to just go, but I declined. He went alone and I ended up missing the funeral. He was livid, just calling M3 and texting nasty things, calling me petty and spoiled. He said that I should be grateful his mom paid for my ticket to begin with, then said that she doesn't owe me a goddamn thing. I argued about how she could have just booked us both in economy if money was an issue, but he called me pathetic for thinking about it when his dad just died. He said it was cruel what I did and that his mom and family will never forget that I missed the funeral over ridiculous reasons. Am I the a-hole for going home over this? Edit. One of the reasons I didn't settle for the economy ticket was because I wanted to sit next to my husband and support him. He sobbed the whole ride to the airport, and I didn't want to leave his side. I was shocked when he told me we couldn't sit together, and how he said it like he had no issue with it. This one comes from user u/throwaway2359603. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband to get over himself when he started berating me for not picking up his brother's son from school? My husband, 37, took his nephew, 12, and after his dad, my husband's brother, was diagnosed with cancer. He told me that his nephew would be staying with us until his dad completes his chemo treatment. I agreed, although he did not consult me about it first. But I told him that he'll be his responsibility, not mine. He asked me to explain why, and I told him it's because 1. He didn't consult me before taking his nephew in, and 2. I'm not equipped nor experienced in taking care/being committed to childcare. I still have to cook and clean, obviously. He said it was fine and that he'd be taking care of him on his own. The other day he called me in the afternoon saying he was stuck in a 2-hour meeting and asked if I could go pick his nephew up from school. I said I was having lunch with Mom and discussing family issues. He insisted, but I reminded him that he said he'd be taking care of his nephew, including school pickup/drop-off. I suggested he try to get off work or call some family member to go pick him up. He tried to argue, but I hung up. I went home at 3 and surprisingly found my husband there. He was angry. He started yelling at me, calling me selfish and unfeeling. I told him that his lack of management wasn't my fault. He yelled, saying that my lunch with Mom could have waited, but I chose to be petty, just to prove a point. I said that wasn't true and told him to get over himself and stop acting like he was the victim when he put himself in this situation knowing he wouldn't commit. He yelled that he was trying to do all he can to help his brother out, but it was me who's playing victim after I refused to help out. We argued some more, and I ended up going to stay with my mom for the night. He texted me some choice words. That's when I turned my phone off. We're still arguing about it. Our last post comes from Reddit user u/Jason_Barrett1029. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife that leaving her used pad in my brother's place was inappropriate? My wife and I were invited to my brother's 31st birthday. He's single and lives alone in his apartment. So, to give you the heads up, my wife and him don't get along so well, but can be civil enough to sit at the same table. So, we went and had dinner and talked and everything was going well. No argument, nothing, until after my wife went to use the bathroom. Later my brother went to use the bathroom, then came back looking pissed. He kept giving me and my wife looks, but I didn't know what was going on until he pulled me aside before we left and told me that my wife had left her used pad in his bathroom. I was shocked and didn't know what to say because this felt highly inappropriate. He said he didn't appreciate what my wife did and that it was a sign of disrespect towards him. I apologized profoundly and said I didn't know about it. He asked me to speak to her or she wouldn't be welcome in his place anymore. We got in the car, and I asked my wife about it. She nonchalantly said there was nothing wrong with what she did and that my brother was being ridiculous. I kind of flipped and told her it was very inappropriate for her to leave her used pad in his place even if it was in the bathroom and in the trash can because it made him uncomfortable. She yelled, asking what she was supposed to do, and I told her she could have took it with her and threw it outside, not in his bathroom. That's my brother's place, and he told me how he felt about it. She yelled at me, calling my brother an incel and me an a-hole for getting in her face about it. She said she needed to use the bathroom, and it's not like the pad was visible since she dumped it in the trash can. At home we still argued about it, and she kept on calling me and my brother names. She's currently not speaking to me and is avoiding me entirely. That's all the stories I have for today. Thank you for watching and I hope you like and subscribe. And remember, never trust a nice guy.